And now questions from subscribers. What the f***? Why the f*** not? Are you a moron? I'm not the one to judge. And you, are you an asshole? Probably. How are your two dads doing? Oh, here's a smart question. Where do you get exploits like the magic bullet? Well, we reversed the game. Well, we have a boy. Oh, so you do have a boyfriend after all. Today, we'll interview the owners of one of the most popular cheats in Counter-Strike. The guy on the left is a COO, and on the right, we have the owner and developer. They'll answer a lot of interesting questions about development, problems, and earnings of cheats without mentioning their names. This video is made for educational purposes. We don't promote playing with cheats. We stand against cheaters in the competitive scene. I'd appreciate it if you drop a like if you enjoyed this kind of content. So first, let's start with a question about anonymity. I was shocked because I was sure that we were going to have to shoot this video without showing your faces. I was sure you'd want to stay anonymous. So why are you so open? Well, why not? We're not doing anything illegal and don't hide. There's no point in hiding our faces or something. My social media pages have always been open to the public and I always use my nickname. So there's no point in hiding for me. If someone wanted to find me, they could easily find my VK, Telegram, and personal photos. So what's the point? But what if Russia acts like China and tries to imprison cheat developers? What will you do then? Actually, Russia already has one case. It's a criminal case in some World of Tanks cheats. That guy was given a probation, but as far as I can judge, that case is pretty sluggish, and it was started by a developer of the game. If someone wanted to imprison us, anonymity wouldn't help us at all. I'm not in Russia right now, so... Can you remember any cases when someone dug up some info on you? Well, yeah, it happens all the time. Someone got my info from some government registry, found my old photos. There's no point in fighting this. If people want to find info, they will. We work officially in Russia, and if you have someone's personal tax number, you'll find everything about them. Oh wait, I know that your kind of company can't accept more than 150 million rubles in a year. Well, my limit is actually 200 million, but yeah, I didn't surpass it yet. In Russia, you're registered as an individual entrepreneur, and you think it's legal, but many others think otherwise and run payments anonymously through crypto. Why? Why are you so open about it? Well, many people in cheats do it like me, in Counter-Strike at least. The biggest European cheat providers have open companies in Switzerland and the Netherlands, registered to their real names. No one hides because we don't break any criminal laws, so government can't have any issues with us. Yes, companies might hold a grudge against us about trademarks usage, but it all regulates in civil court. There were some cases in China when cheat devs were imprisoned. Were they sued by the government or the game's developer? Well, with China, it's both. It's very tied up there. The government and the publisher are interested in this. I don't know who initiated this, but if it's a criminal case, then those cheat devs broke Chinese criminal law. If they, like South Korea, prohibit cheating by law, then people might end up in prison. Tell us, how did you get into cheat dev? How did it all start? Well, it all started with some strange accounts in Counter-Strike lobby. They were advertising something, and I didn't cheat back then. I was curious how it worked, and after some time, the program's code was published on the internet. You're talking about those XYZ bots, right? Yes, it was #FixCSGO. So you saw that you can do some stupid things in CSGO and decided... After that, I launched those bots and got VAC banned. I found out that there's a lot of resources to learn from. My friend and I, who I was playing with, enjoyed programming, and we had some pet projects together. It was fun. How many years did it take to make the first MVP? I'm not sure about MVP, but we released our cheat after 8 months. Though I can't call it a good quality cheat, we still sold something back then. How many VAC bans did you get while testing? More than 1,000? I think less than 1,000, but we don't count them. Well, getting vaxxed while developing a cheat is no surprise. But if a developer is smart enough, he'll only need 10 to 15 accounts to cover every possible hole. This one's pretty primitive, but I have to ask it. Don't you feel like bad people? Well, it's not black and white. Obviously, we want to do something with our lives besides making cheats. I'm trying to do so. That's one of the reasons why we're focusing on HVH, and think it's right when cheaters are playing against cheaters. It's a separate game mode, so I don't have any remorse doing HVH. But how many people use cheats for HVH? I think most of them use them for competitive games and even cheat on the pro scene. Well, with our cheats, you can't play on FACEIT. Matchmaking is pretty much HVH right now. And yeah, it's true, because hackers have nowhere else to play. We're trying to develop some infrastructure and develop HVH matchmaking. So why isn't it possible to play on FACEIT with your cheat? Because FACEIT has anti-cheat?
Yes.
FACEIT has a driver anti-cheat, and we never tried to fool it. Because our cheat isn't about matchmaking, FACEIT, esports, or any kind of legit game. We're about hack versus hack. Are there any cheats that work on FACEIT? Well, of course, any game has cheats. Is there any cheat that is still not banned by FACEIT? How do I ensure my cheat isn't banned there? I get why you don't work on it, because you'll have to find some workarounds every time, but there are cheats that work on FACEIT. How? What matters first is the developer's skill. Second is how the people are using the cheat and having regular updates. What works in FACEIT now? Some driver cheats, bootkits, and then DMA is the most hyped thing right now. DMA means direct access to a game's memory. Thus, we can see everything that's happening in the game, and any anti-cheat won't notice a thing. But DMA cheats have one special thing: its developers must always be on the alert to find new ways to hide it. Because anti-cheats get regular updates. Also, the funniest thing is that many FACEIT AC staff came there from developing cheats. It's the same with VALORANT. These people reach some barrier or their life values change, and they start to move in the other direction. Well, it seems like the best anti-cheat developer would be the person who created cheats in the past. Yeah, totally, because he knows exactly how everything works. And he was on the same page with the people who he's battling. Let's imagine you get contacted by Valve, and they tell you to close your cheats and work on their AC. Would you agree? In theory, I think many people in our team would be interested in it. But in reality, knowing how Valve do business, even how they handle their Twitter, Valve used to be a company that's interested in developing games, but right now they're acting like a monopolist in a business world. And people who aim for self-growth and to do some cool stuff suffocate there, because Valve's priority is to make skins and earn money. Sadly, that's how I see Valve now. I can speak for many of our devs now. They wouldn't be interested in working only for money. They need to get knowledge and new skills and play that cat and mouse game. We started this project with a friend who I played Counter-Strike with, and we were always together as developers. To this day, I still do some programming myself. For instance, I code almost everything for our cheats defense. But yeah, I try to focus on other things like matchmaking or cheats for other games. Yeah, the guys made a very cool thing. They launched their own matchmaking where everyone plays with cheats. I can't say it's bad because it brings something new. If people use cheats only on your servers, then the idea is pretty cool. It's important to understand that now HVH is a competitive game where people win with their wits. They aren't just run, spin, and kill each other, no. They outplay each other with bunny hops and grenades. Yes, flashbangs aren't a problem for us, but still, mollies, HEs, because you only need to do 8 HP of damage with it, and it's lethal for your enemy. If you leave an enemy with 8 HP, No, -8, 92 HP, means that you can make a lethal shot with a scout. So you need to throw nades, yes. Also, CSGO didn't have no spread, so you couldn't jump and shoot straight with the op. In CS2, on the contrary, we have a lot of interesting functions that allow you to run and jump with the op and still shoot without any problems. But someday Valve will fix it. And the good old competitive game will be back. You'll have to not only run and gun, but also think about what you do. So we want to make a HVH league because it already has solo players, teams, and tournaments with prize money. Oh my god, what? Yeah, they have teams and events with prizes. And sponsors. Yeah, cheat devs themselves could fund these events. That's interesting. The biggest tournament had like $3,000 or $5,000. Stop, who funds these things? Except for cheat devs, of course. Gambling, because there are streams and people are interested in watching it. People from this community are very interested in it. Many of these people don't even play legit CS anymore. They only play HVH. Imagine a LAN with 10 cheaters, with analysts and esports casters. Well, don't even think about LAN. The HVH community is very toxic. They love to find info on each other. Not that long ago, one guy had a fight with Overdrive. They found his phone number, his address, and ordered pizza to his name. Because the HVH community is very toxic and very young. So they don't understand that their actions cause a lot of discomfort for older people. It's just a joke for them. It's funny to make a fool out of someone. Ha ha, something like that. Earlier, people even swatted each other. There was a lot of swatting noise 2 years ago. And some people were even imprisoned. And after that, people calmed down and stopped doing these things. That's phenomenal. You can create a project where you don't need an anti-cheat. Each project of this kind suffers from a lot of cheaters. They come in and break the competition. I know some people will judge me, but I think the idea to host an HVH LAN is great. Well, I think the audience would love to hear voice comms between the two teams. I just love the idea to host a tournament. Imagine me making a video, 5v5 HVH tournament. But these people wouldn't show their faces, right? Totally. This community is so toxic that no one would dare to go IRL. How many people are there in your team? About 20. If we don't count testers, then yes. And how many testers do you have? About 10 people full-time. How big is your monthly salary fund? I think up to about 15,000 euros. Which salary is the biggest in your company? Who gets it? Well, if we talk about employees, then the highest paid one would be our back-end guy. Is it more than $4,000? Well, it's close. What's the average salary in your team? It's hard to say because we have people who work 1 hour a day and people who work 25 hours a day, 8 days a week. I think I can name $600, maybe a bit higher. How do people find you? You don't publish vacancies on the web, right? It depends, actually. So do you really publicly search for employees? No, it depends on the position we need to fill. We know a lot of people and usually find new employees through connections. For instance, we found a project manager through our developer. We were talking about cheat devs who move to anti-cheats, like FACEIT. How much do you think they're getting paid? Yeah, there were some cases, even on Reddit or Twitter, when ex-cheat devs were signed by FACEIT or VALORANT. I think they have a huge salary because there's a lot of responsibility. They also sign NDAs, and if FACEIT AC code gets leaked, then the whole platform will become a home for cheaters. I think those guys earn at least 10,000 euros a month. You have a team of 20 people, but what about other projects? Are there cheats from a single geeky person? Is it even possible to have a good cheat with regular updates and develop it without any help? I don't think so, because popular cheats also includes working with community and promotion. You also need to have good protection. Cheats are like games. They can be reversed. And other cheat devs will happily reverse your cheat and take your ideas, so they don't have to do the extra work themselves. One person can't handle all of this. Yeah, there are some good projects with relatively small teams. I don't know how many people they have, but less than us, and they still do a good job. But on the contrary, we have projects like, I think there are hundreds of people working for them. There are cheats with hundreds of people? They have cheats for many different games. How many games do you know? 1,000? These guys have at least 300 cheats. They're multimillionaires, right? Yeah, like that Chinese guy who was arrested with 30 sports cars and all that stuff. Their strategy is not quality, but quantity. So, like a cheat factory. Yeah, they release a cheat in 1 to 2 days after a game gets released. How is that even possible? Game devs don't even try to protect their games? So cheat devs can fool them in 1 day? No, the problem lies in the popularity of game engines. 10 or 15 years ago, game studios had their own engines without an open source code, and cheat devs had to explore it. Now we have like around 3 to 5 engines, and all of the game devs use them. Unreal Engine, Unity, Source. Unreal Engine lies on GitHub, completely open. There's no problem in building a base and then applying it to every Unreal Engine game. Which engine is hardest for cheating? The unpopular ones, because there's not a lot of info about them. Let's imagine a map. Which country has the most cheat usage by players? By the amount of players? No, the percentage of cheaters in the player base. China, I think. Yeah, totally. I wanted to say CIS at first, but China is way bigger. And what if we imagine the same map, but of cheat developers? Europe, I think? But no, still China. There are many developers in Germany. Yeah, Europe, maybe. It's hard to talk about China because the region is absolutely closed. They have their own internet and unique community. But yeah, it gets leaked that China has the most cheat usage by players. And what about developers? No dev will ever admit he's from China because it's considered criminal there. The Chinese government supports local game dev. There's a big company called Tencent, and it would never be so big without Chinese support. Do you have info about any Tier 1 player that uses cheats? Only theoretical. It's most likely possible. I'm not sure about Tier 1, but anyway, no one would say something like that, because it would stir the pot. But there are 100% some cheaters in Tier 2 and Tier 3. There are also some FACEIT cheats, but they need to be secure and protected. The most popular thing right now is DMA. It's something like a separate PCI card or M2 SSD. It has direct access to a PC's memory and can get info from a game's memory while not triggering any checks by FACEIT AC if everything is done right. How much would an invite to this cheat cost? It depends on the developer, his skills, his popularity, etc. It can be anywhere from $300 to $1,500. But if we're talking about Tier 3 level or higher, oftentimes cheat developers get a cut of the player's winnings. Oh my god. Yeah, it's true. At least I know of some cases from a few years ago. So what are these cheats? Wall hack? It's not aimbot, right? Because that's got to be the easiest one to spot. Actually, it's easier to get caught with wall hack. Seriously? It's more like an aimbot or aim assist. Many people think that aimbot is the easiest one to spot because your crosshair sticks to the enemy's head. But today, smart cheat devs are on a completely different level. Today, some cheats can adapt to your playstyle by checking how fast you move the mouse and what kind of KDA you have. It's like on consoles, but not as aggressive as Call of Duty. Everything is smooth because the cheat analyzes how you play and tries to imitate you. I'm going to show you a video now from the pro scene, and I want you to tell me what you think. It's Tier 3. Can you explain why he did this? At first glance, it looks like the molly got smoked and the player imagined an enemy there. And then it looks like a radar. But you need to look more closely at this player's demos and analyze what he does in tense situations like this. Oftentimes you can see it at a distance. A person will play calmly a few games in a row, and then in an important match, he gets nervous, and he realizes that he might lose if he doesn't use cheats now. It can cause situations like, he's there, fuck, that was a wall. So yeah, it's possible he has some cheats, but we would need to analyze more of his demos. All right, here's one more.
А дальше происходит такое. Вот они стоят, и единичка в какой-то момент резко поворачивается. Вот заметьте, он повернулся, да? Минута, 0:51 он повернулся. Ну, там даже раньше, 0:50, да? Но проблема в том, что он повернулся на мидл до того, как нас чел увидел. Он где-то повернулся, даже я ошибся, на 0:52, да? На 0:51. А чел нас увидел позже. Мы видели того человека в девятке, да? Не стали его убивать, думая, что они нас проебали, и у нас есть тайминг. То есть хорошая команда, которая нас выиграла, играет такой сетап, что одного могут ебать в ухо, а второй смотрит ему вообще с той позиции, где у него не первый угол, не первый контакт. Как бы уебал бы чем-нибудь в GTA RP.
So please tell me, what was that? The game's new, and I also noticed some strange things with the sounds. Sometimes you hear something like it's far away, but it's actually close to you. Again, we would need to check their demos, but it looks very strange. The unsuspecting player turns 180 degrees because he knows there's no enemies. He already has a teammate who checks the middle, but he went there anyways. So it's fair to assume that this guy knows a bit more than an honest player would. How do you detect a radar hack? Our team just finished an ESEA advanced season, and 9 out of 16 playoff teams supposedly used a radar hack. How can you solve this problem? How do you find a radar hack? I mean, they have those cameras in the back, on the left, and on the right, but even that's not enough. They still manage to win those games. Maybe a coach tells them where to go? How do they do it? There's one interesting function from one of our developers. This radar is unique because your crosshair color changes just a little on the side where the enemy is coming from. Or some net graph stats. For instance, the last number of your net graph will tell you the coordinates of your enemy. So there are a huge amount of great solutions for radar hack. My first recommendation for you is this. Half of these cheaters will fail to play on FACEIT. It happened on FACEIT. Well, then there's nothing left to do other than deeply analyze demos, or to play on a LAN. But you need to pass an online stage to qualify for a LAN. More likely, all of them used DMA, and there's no way to catch them. Well, first of all, since all of these tournaments are held on FACEIT, there should be some control from admins. We had a situation on an online tournament against a team supposedly using radar hack. We lost and asked them to send recordings of how their side was playing. 4 players did so, but the 5th didn't send us the files. Eventually, they said, "All right, you win. We don't even want to play this anymore." So they won the game, but got a technical loss because one of the players refused to send his recordings of the game. This happened just in the last few months for me. The only advice I can give you is to always act ballsy and ask for recordings. It's possible that only one player used a DMA and fed info to each of his teammates. Or even a coach who's not asked to record anything. Yeah, coaches don't record. My recommendation for TOs would be to use the latest, most aggressive FACEIT AC build and pay more attention to logs. Because all these DMAs will inevitably leave some logs in the anti-cheat. They will mask as SSD, USB, audio cards, etc., but it's still possible to find something and make a case. But the problem is that an admin needs to check every game and every log. It's a lot of money, even for FACEIT, but that's the only chance that the pro scene has to truly be safe. But yeah, if the DMA's developer is super skilled, then a LAN is really the ultimate decision. All right, let's switch to other games. VALORANT. Everyone loves it. They have their own anti-cheat that's embedded into the very core of your PC. Is it really that good? Yeah, it's not bad. It's unique because it started before Windows. VALORANT's AC launches with UEFI. It's a thing that came after BIOS. That's a bootkit, the anti-cheats driver. To put it simply, it's loaded on the very early stage of the whole system launch. Then it analyzes your system from the inside, every function. Can it detect DMA cheats? What is DMA? You have a PCIe, and direct memory access is just a setting over the PCI. The anti-cheat sees that there's some device connected through PCI and some driver. It doesn't know this driver. It may, in theory, find out something, but not 100%. Let's talk about the future. How do you see anti-cheats in 5 years? Is VALORANT's idea okay, or is it an outdated thing for this day and age? I think if Valve hasn't implemented this idea after all these years, then we had the FACEIT AC, and then VALORANT did practically the same thing. If Valve hasn't done it in all this time, I highly doubt it's going to happen in the future. As far as I understand, they decided to develop their own unique solutions, like the trust factor, which will separate players. Cheaters will play with cheaters, toxic players will be matched with similar ones. If Valve didn't ban cheaters, then they would stop complaining to cheat developers and get them to improve cheats. That may be more effective, and honest players would suffer less. Secondly, VACNET has been announced. We don't know how long it's been working, but it's possible that all the data that VAC collects now will help to develop VACNET. So you're saying that Valve are looking towards AI? Well, I think that today they're more focused on separating players. They detect cheaters, but they don't ban them. There's a rumor that the new CS2 AC has a lot of functions that haven't been enabled to this day. Why is that? No, these functions are enabled, but Valve just don't ban for them. They see that some player does some strange things, and he's 90% cheating, but for some reason, Valve doesn't block them. Well, if Valve would ban players for it, then cheat devs would find loopholes for them in a month. But even though players don't get blocked, Valve still collects logs. So to summarize, you think that machine learning is a lot better than what VALORANT or FACEIT are doing today, right? Well, for one, it doesn't load up on a client's PC, and generally, it's a lot safer when everything happens on a server. You can reverse any client software and understand how it works, but for what happens on the server, you can only guess. They have a lot of info in those logs, and when you finally get banned, you don't know what the cause is. Regarding software anti-cheat for CS2, this solution isn't any good in my opinion, and the reason is pretty sad. This anti-cheat will lower the game's performance by a lot. If a person had 60 FPS in CS2 on his laptop, installing VALORANT or FACEIT AC can easily get it down to 20 FPS. And you won't be able to play at all. At the beginning of VALORANT and its AC, that was an interesting case. The first version of VALORANT AC could completely ruin your Windows machine. Restart, death screen, the end. What happened? Plain and simple, the anti-cheat developers didn't fix all the issues with each Windows versions, because there are so many of them. Windows 10, Windows 11, Windows 7, 8, 8.1. Moreover, you have monthly patches, and each of these updates could easily break your AC or otherwise. What is the main function that could easily catch cheaters but hasn't been added to anti-cheats yet? Well, it's hard to point out a specific function that can detect cheaters with 100% accuracy. Rather, we can take a different approach and look at AI. It's better to not hold your AC on the client side, because any developer can reverse it, understand how it works, how to fool it, etc. Instead, Valve can have something like an AI on their server that will deeply analyze players. This way, devs will have to guess what they should do in order to stop getting banned or hidden pools. We discussed it yesterday. So you think that Valve will make their anti-cheat in AI because they're a company that loves innovations and doesn't want to copy somebody? So they want to create a new meta, AI anti-cheats, right? Well, I have my own personal theory that won't be supported by many other developers. In Valve's place, I would analyze a player very deeply. His movement, mouse and keyboard usage, his average KDA, and other stats, and increases or decreases in stats. Because when a player starts to use cheats, his behavior changes a lot, and that could be noticed. Also, mouse movement gets affected a lot. So if an AI analyzes normal players and compared them with cheaters, then it could detect cheats. We already have one case that, in my personal opinion, supports this method. I'm talking about CS2 bans for high DPI and sends. I think you saw those videos where the guy turns on 16 or 32,000 DPI, then spins his mouse for a minute and gets VAC banned. In my opinion, that was one of the first signs that an AI is analyzing a player's behavior. That person was as clean as it gets, but still he got VAC banned. Why? Most likely because VACNET analyzed his mouse movement and saw that it was very unusual. Yeah, machine learning has its flaws. This guy used very high DPI just for fun and ended up getting banned. What should they do about that? As Dimitri said, it's more about separating cheaters from other players. Instead of bans, just move a player to a pool of similar players and analyze what he'll do there. Moreover, you can dispute bans. If an AI decides to ban you because of some specific action, you can contact support and have a human check your case. Then he will see that you are just fooling around and having fun, so you'll get unbanned without any problems. It is AI, so of course it will make mistakes. Can you say what the percentages of players who use cheats? My theory is that 1 out of every 10 players cheats. I suspect 10%, yeah. But cheating isn't only stuff like an aimbot. Maybe we can even call it 20 to 30 or 40% of people use cheats. In CSGO, at least. Because cheat is a very broad term. There can be a case farm or a vertigo boost, and they're both still called a cheat. And of course, you have your usual cheaters, and also AHK on bunny hop, etc. Oh yes, there are cheats that just repeat the spacebar, but have some kind of logic in their timings. There's actually a lot of great info that came out after shooting that interview. We all know that CS2 has a premiere mode that lists the best players, and I can confidently say that out of the first 100, 95 of them either play with cheats or were boosted by cheaters. You can also see a lot of gaps in the list. There are 3rd, 5th, 6th, 7th place, and so one is missing. These spots are taken by our accounts that aren't approved by Valve because we have a 100% win rate and a 100% HS rate. That's kind of our way of trolling Valve. There's a lot of cheats besides ours who do the same thing. Wait, you were saying that you make cheats for HVH? Why did you go to Premiere? Anything 25,000 is HVH. Then it's you who created the situation. Look, starting from 25,000, you only have HVH games. That's the game mode. Currently, we're working on the league in order to have our own space where cheaters could play against each other and not ruin the game for innocent players. What is the competition in the cheating market? What are you fighting each other for? For making the best product possible, I suppose. What do you mean by that? Well, there are a few components to it. You need to have good shooting stats, not worse than other cheats. Right now we have the best product in CS2, if you judge it by how good it kills other cheaters. Secondly, there's user experience, how good our service is. We have a script and config market, for instance, which is very important here. A player can go to our website and buy what he wants, not having to talk to someone through Discord. He also doesn't have to worry about being scammed. As cheat developers, can you say how much money a cheat makes on average with our cheats? No, the whole market. The market is very wide. A person who sells a cheat only in the Russian market will make some money. But for those who sell top-level HVH products, they'll get much more. And for those who work with pro players, that's a whole other topic. Let's talk about each category then. If we take only CIS, and keep in mind that we have very small cheats with only one developer, it can be from $10,000 to $20,000. Okay, and those are small fish, right? Yes, because if we look at the top level where they have hundreds of different cheats, they can easily have millions of dollars in turnover. Let's look at cheats for pro players and their unique field. I think it's less than the millions, but it's attached to the percent of a team's winnings. There's also some open info from European companies where they have a public registry and we can actually see how much they're making. Oh, and how much is it? As far as I can remember, one Danish cheat had about $1 million of profits in 2020. Not small, but not too big. Your subscription costs 19 euros. If we look at the amount of sales on market, then we have at least 50,000 sales in 2 years. Look, we have a market where people can buy and sell settings, configs, and even LUA add-ons for our cheats. There we have one free script that was used by 50,000 people. 50K times 19 equals how much money that you got from people who downloaded that script. It's rough, but yes. What about the margin? It's hard to count because in cheats, the main devs are always the shareholders. If we don't count the developers' work, then the margin would be 90% plus. What would have to happen for you to say, I quit, I don't want to do cheats anymore? Probably I would have to make something better. Anti-cheat? Anti-cheat is pretty boring for me. What could be cooler than a cheat? I think something about game dev or some program product, but not a cheat.